best-selling book, that could actually be your next best move. And we would love to support you in that way. So I want you to make sure that you get online right now. Renee, make sure you talk to us. This is a conversation about your fruit. This is a conversation about how you can make your next move your best move. We are your partners and you're your friends in prosperity. And we are excited.
Our ATM crew just came on. We want to welcome everyone as you're coming in on this live stream. We want to welcome you. We want to welcome you as you're coming in on this live stream. It's an exciting time. So we want to ensure that we share that to our mastermind group.
Share it now.
Come on now. So we want you now to, as you are now joining us, we want to welcome the mastermind group that is coming on for this live stream. And for those who will be joining us, just in a second, I want you to type in the comments right now our topic. We are talking about being fruitful, and I want you to put in the comments, what is your expectation? What's your harvest? What do you want to be fruitful in this quarter? What do you want to be fruitful in? All right, so I want you to put in the comments, what do you want to be fruitful in? Lori, what do you want to be fruitful in? Come on, just put it in the comments. Type it in. What do you want to be fruitful in?
Yes,
all right, what do you want to be fruitful in? Woo!
Speaking of fruit, this morning in Wale, he actually went out to our garden and he picked not one, not two, but like dozens of plums from our plum tree. And boy, was I happy when he came in with it nice, ripe plums. It was so great. And not only that, Lori, but he was fruitful so much that he left a couple on the tree for the birds to eat. So thank you, baby, for thinking about more than just my belly. But yeah, let's talk about what you want to be fruitful in. Lori says she wants to be fruitful in her writing about sports.
Oh,
interesting.
Love
so
that.
We would love to talk to you more about that because when you write about your passion, Lori, you step into a realm where other people feel like, okay, my passions matter too, right? There was a client of ours who was passionate about the art of forgiveness and really honing in on what it means to have a forgiving heart. And to some, that topic may be a little bit boring, Tara, but she was very passionate about it, and we encouraged her to get her message out there. And little did she know, Lori, little did she know that there were other people just as passionate about forgiveness as she was. So she began to form a community, Tara, and talk about that with people who wanted to talk about forgiveness. And now she has a stronger community than she had ever imagined. So that's what it's about, putting your thoughts and your passions out there so that you too can find other unicorns who love and believe in what it is that you have to say. Hi, Philip Needham.
Hey,
Lyman.
Phillip.
I'm gonna tell your AKA, your alias. Lyman is his name. Welcome.
So guys, we're gonna get started now as we go into what matters, more importantly, what you know this segment means to you. All right, this is all about being fruitful. We are moving into a new dimension when it comes to getting your story out. More importantly, we want you to know that the opportunity to be fruitful, the opportunity to maintain your momentum.
Welcome, Felicia and Shanika.
Hey,
we're excited to have
Shanika, welcome. So happy that you're with us. So I want you to know that it is possible for you to maintain your soul. It is possible for you to continue in that momentum. So the first thing we want to do, we want to start off with some celebrations. Who do we want to celebrate? Let's do some celebrations.
Yes, we want to celebrate Mashawn for taking the step toward writing her international best-selling book. She is a superstar in her own right, and she decided to say yes to herself. So we are excited to help her with that process. We also want to celebrate and congratulate Regina. Regina is a powerhouse real estate mogul, and we are just super pumped up about what she's going to talk about in her book regarding being an entrepreneur and how you survive the ups and the downs of entrepreneurship and still keep your shirt on. So let's celebrate Regina. Let's celebrate Rashawn. Let's celebrate Selena. Selena is getting her book out there.
Wow.
That baby that she's been pregnant with. Hello, Lakeisha Michelle. She's getting ready. She's getting ready to give birth to her best-selling book. We want to celebrate. Wow, we have so many people to celebrate. We want to celebrate Patience. She just became an international best-selling author.
Patience Hemway. That's the girl who jumps around and says, "Breathe with me." Come on, guys. We want to say hats off to Patience for taking the opportunity and, more importantly, taking her message serious, her journey of loss, her journey of dealing with anxiety and overcoming that. So she has the ability to not just tell her story, but stand on her story and allow others to soar as they deal with any sorts of angst or breakdowns, and being able to really hone their own message and to walk with that sense of calm, peace, grace, and ease.
Yes, welcome, Monica. Monica, we're just celebrating the community. Those who have said yes to themselves, those who are taking action toward birthing their books. Monica, she is a great person to speak to about all things love and marriage.
Woo!
And so shout outs to Monica and her Renew Your Marriage community.
Yes.
We want to shout out also Maggie. Maggie is birthing her book right now. Right now she's in the labor ward.
She's in the labor ward.
And that baby is crowning, right?
Ward.
And so Maggie,
how many centimeters?
She's about 9. About 9. She's almost fully dilated. And so Maggie is in the game, and she's pushing and pushing for her book. So before we go all night celebrating, let's get into the content. Tonight we're talking about being fruitful, the power of being fruitful.
Mm-hmm. So, when you begin to hear people talk about sharing their message, you hear people begin to talk about sharing their story, one of the common questions that comes in a lot of people's minds is, do I really have something to share? Is my message important? Am I significant in the space of this conversation? And we want to remind you that anytime you are thinking about or trying to answer those questions, anytime you are trying to answer that doubt, or what we call that negative self-belief that says, I'm not worthy to share my message, my story does not matter, it's not important, or sometimes we think about people and their story about climbing Mount Everest, and like, I never climbed Mount Everest, but what, I don't have anything significant to talk about. When I think about those questions, because I've faced those questions before, I think about the concept of a seed, because everything that is great starts off with a seed.
Everything that's great starts off with a seed.
Everything that is great, hi Katrina, everything that is great starts off with a seed. And at first, a seed looks insignificant. It looks unassuming. It looks like something that will be stuck under your shoe. But there is something powerful inside that seed. I remember a mentor once told me, Katrina, that a seed is not a reflection of where you are, but inside a seed is the promise of where you will be.
Wow. So, let that sink in for a minute. A seed is not a reflection of where you are, but it's the promise of where you will be.
So when you reflect on your journey, when you reflect on your story, when you reflect on your experiences, you have to consider that where you are now is as a result of things that was happening inside of that seed.
Oh, yeah.
And everything great starts off with a seed. So, another key thing a good friend of mine told me, he reminded me of a quote. It's from Isaiah. It really talks about the importance of you are a word sent by God. We are a word that is sent by God, and you will accomplish what you were sent to do.
That's right.
But in order for that word to come forth, it starts first as a seed. So even though you think your life may be simple, Lisa always says that some of her greatest discovery has been found in her unconscious competence. Things that she was just effortless in doing and never thought it was valuable. But to other people, it was significant. It was tremendous. So remember that it all starts off as a seed. And I encourage you today that whenever you think about your story, whenever you think about, am I worthy to talk about my message, you are the manifestation of a collection of moments. you are a manifestation of a collection of moments. And these moments is a representation of your journey.
Yeah.
So you are worth telling your story. I want to get that clear. You are worth telling your story.
That's
All
right.
right. So the first thing, whenever we think about the story and about documenting your story, there are three principles we want to share with you. How can you become fruitful? All right, because everything that lives must grow, and we
Yes.
all are alive today, and we are sharing this moment, and we want you to understand those three principles. That if it, what's the first one? You go with the first one.
The first principle is if it's not documented, it doesn't get done.
She'll know why
So-
why I started her off with the first principle. She's gonna tell you.
Yeah, so this principle is very, very personal to me because I remember we were at a conference and Steve, it was the funniest thing because I thought I was misprepared for this conference, but I ended up not being, and it was crazy. So what happened was we brought our babies to this conference and we were working early mornings, late nights, and I was in charge of
Which
making sure
babies?
that they had
Which
everything.
babies?
I was in charge of making sure that they had everything they needed in order to go to the next day with the nanny. So I realized that morning that I didn't have enough diapers in order to have them be comfortable for the next day. And so I waited until like 10 o'clock at night. Mind you, we had gotten up at 5 a.m. that morning and was finally finished at 10 o'clock. So I waited until 10, Steve, in order to tell my husband that we needed to go and get diapers. Now, keep in mind, we didn't bring our car to the city, so we really needed to get we needed to get a lift to go there. So I told my husband, he's been on his feet all day, and I said, honey, we need to go to the CVS to get some diapers for the baby. And he's like, what? So he got really upset. I'm talking about eyes red, face. I mean, he's a chocolate drop, but let me tell you, his face turned literally red, and he was really upset. I'm putting you up there.
Now, listen, guys. Have you ever been so bone tired that you're at the point where I don't want another thing to do? Have you ever been in that place, Monica, where you know you are so exasperated? You're at the place where in your mind the only thing you could picture is your bed, your pillow, and just some soft music, and you're ready to sleep. And when you're about to lay hold of some rest, there's more to do. If you've ever been in that place where you felt that you were beyond tired?
I've been there before. I'm like that every single night, right? But you
So
know,
I was beyond tired.
Kristen, but come on now. I mean, sleep versus, making sure that you got your work done, because that's why I waited till last minute, because there was work to be done. But anyway, had I used this principle, Kristen, to write down what was on my agenda, to write things down, to document it, it would have gotten done. We understand that what is not documented doesn't get done. So let's see how our lives could be better if we decide to apply this principle and get stuff done. That's our encouragement to you, right? Is to, write down those things that are important to your life. Cordero, write down those things that are important to your life. Because when you document it, it will get done. So if you have dreams and desires that move beyond 2019, write them down, Felicia. Write them down, because it's only in the writing it down does it become a commitment. And when commitments are made in your life, then they actually will happen, right? When you're committed to someone, just like I'm committed to my husband, I'll make sure his happiness happens, right? I won't bring him out again at 11 o'clock at night saying, let's go get diapers for the baby. I won't do that, or at least I'll try.
We want to welcome all those who are joining us on the mastermind. In our mastermind, authors on the move, people who are working to turn in their book into a business. Guys, that's an exciting experience where you understand a 12-month program, understanding the power of turning your message into a mission, having quarterly goals, hitting specific income goals. So we want to celebrate those guys. Come on, guys, let's celebrate people who are not just getting over the hurdle of writing a book, but turning that book into a bestseller and then turning that bestseller into a business. So let's where are my clappers? If I had imaginary clappers, clap it up, clap it up, clap it up, clap it up, clap it up.
Clap, 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 clap.
You know,
Yes,
so
yes. I like what Kristen said. She said to write the vision and make it plain. Yes.
boy.
One of our favorite scriptures.
Yes, that is so true, Kristen. So you know, my wife and we both are learning this, that what does not get documented never gets done. What is never documented never gets done. And likewise, you have to take action in starting to write. Don't say you're planning to write. Don't say that you're thinking about writing. Don't say that you've always wanted to write. But you have to make that decision to document your journey, to document your story. There's a concept that we teach most of our clients. It's called brain dumping. Sometimes we get tied up in analysis paralysis. We want to say, I want to get it done perfect. I want it to sound the best. But sometimes you just need to brain dump it. Just put it on the page.
That's
No
right.
subject verb agreement. If you're making up words, you make up the words. But just get the concept there. All right. I like what Selena said. Document those ideas so we don't lose them.
Yes.
Oh boy, you know how many times right now in our washroom, I never go into the washroom without my phone. No
His
matter
phone
what.
and his water.
I never go into the washroom without my phone. And one of the main reasons for that is I just get so many ideas while I'm in the shower. It comes to me. I just write it down. And after that, it comes like in just a split second, millisecond. And if you don't hold that idea and write it down, it just goes. So I encourage you. Hi, Patrice Johnson. Welcome, Patrice.
Yeah, hi, Patricia and Sonia and Toy. Welcome.
Woo! Yeah, so we want to encourage you to write it down. Write the vision, make it plain. Write it down in its raw form. Stop being a perfectionist. We've learned it so many times. You have nothing to hide, nothing to protect, nothing to defend. All right, you know that you're in a place where your story matters. All right, so that's the first point. It is very important. What does not get documented
Does not get done.
now, this is another key part where many speakers and many authors overlook it, and I think it's a tragedy. Where we may speak on stages, we may be prolific speakers, we may be excellent orators, but we don't have a book, and that book is a representation of your journey. And for every author, every speaker here, let me find all those who are speakers. If you're a speaker, you speak in your church, say, I'm a speaker. You speak at a community center, you speak in your
Your bathroom.
In your
Type
bathroom.
I'm a speaker.
I'm a speaker. You
Yes.
speak to your children.
Oh yeah.
All right. You speak at on your job. You are a professional in your workplace. You're a supervisor.
Yes.
If you are a speaker, just type in the comments, I'm a speaker, I'm a speaker, I'm a speaker, I'm a speaker.
And if you believe in your heart that you are a speaker, type in I'm a speaker.
No, because one of the key things, I see beautiful Patricia, good, right? I'm seeing it beautiful.
Toy, excellent. You're a speaker. Katrina, welcome. And I want you to tell us, are you a speaker right now?
Because the reason why I'm asking that question is because after you've spoken, after you've outlined, your mission, your desire, the problem you solve, the results you create, after you've coached people, after you've coached them to the next best level, one of the key things you need to know, and one of the key things, okay, thank you so much, Laurie. You're getting feedback. Okay, let's just see why we're getting feedback.
Is anyone else getting feedback from the audio?
If you're getting feedback, please let us know that
That
you're
way we
getting.
can fix it. Hello, Damon. Welcome. Yes, I love everyone who is declaring that they are a speaker. Felicia, Sonia, Kristen, Toy. Absolutely. And so as a speaker, the first way that you can have a rapport with your audience is by making sure that you don't leave them without long-term support.
Thank you so much. I'm getting some feedback. It's sounding good. Yes, there is a bit feedback. I don't know why.
Could be the connection, because for some people it's fine, but
Yeah.
others it isn't.
Okay. Right. So, as a speaker, one of the key things that you must recognize you have a responsibility. After you share, your book allows you to multiply yourself.
Yes.
Because when you leave, all right, when you leave, it's your gift of leaving people with a blueprint of putting their lives back together. It leaves them with a memory. It leaves them with the ability of walking through the process that you've laid out for them. So whenever you speak, sometimes your book, in fact, many times your book is that low hanging fruit for persons to have an introduction to you. It's a low hanging fruit. And too many times we have too many speakers, and sometimes it's cultural across different communities. We have a heavy emphasis on oral history, saying, speaking, telling, sharing, telling stories, but we lack the discipline, we lack the commitment, and the responsibility of documenting and placing in a specific format your mission, who you are, your vision, and your reason for being here. So I want to encourage you that what does not get documented does not exist. That's my second point. What does not get documented does not exist. You know, when I look at the history of Egyptian culture, one of the key things, even though they didn't have Facebook and YouTube and digital technology, one of the key things, they saw it as their responsibility. They saw it as their sacred trust to document the historical occurrence, the legacy of such modern civilization, and even through language, hieroglyphics, they documented historical facts,
Yeah,
so
and
that
that was
today that we can borrow from it and
Yeah.
understand and have that sense of gravity that human civilization didn't just appear. All right, we all exist in some form, or come to our relevance in some form, based on people who took the time to chisel away and document.
Yeah, and what's funny about it, not only did they take the time to document it, they made it pretty too. Some of the hieroglyphics, when I had a chance to go to Egypt some years ago, I went inside of a pyramid, Sherry. Wendy, it was amazing just to see the hieroglyphics up front and like touch it and everything. And what that represented to me is that when you put your story on paper, not even in stones anymore. You don't even got to work that hard anymore, right? You don't even got to work that hard anymore, Katrina. But when you put it on paper, you're able to live a legacy. And not just leave a legacy, but live a legacy. You get to enjoy the fruit of that labor while you're still alive. And the fruit that comes from that labor is more speaking engagements. The fruit that comes from that labor is getting people to connect with you. The fruit that comes from the labor of writing and documenting your story is knowing that you are changing and transforming other people's lives.
Wow.
Because at the end of the day, your story doesn't belong to you. It belongs to those people who need to hear from you.
Mm-hmm. So true. When we think about this point, the importance of how do you become fruitful, how do you remain fruitful, what doesn't get documented doesn't exist. I want to say to you, it is your sacred trust. It is your sacred trust. And as a matter of fact, I charge you, it is your sacred trust.
That's right, Philip. It is your sacred trust.
To document your story,
Yes.
to document your journey. There are 3 types of persons who come to the Legacy Project, and this is one of the main reasons and the vision of our company. The first type of person who will traditionally write is someone who sees writing as a healing process. They know what they've went through, they know the journey, but they're not thinking about a business right here and now. They see writing their story as a healing process to revisit certain occurrences, revisit certain incidences, and see the lessons and the stories behind it, and the learnings. And as a matter of fact, it even allows them to even recall things that their conscious mind wasn't aware of, but their subconscious mind, documented it, it imprinted in their DNA. And then the second type of person is someone who knows that they've been carrying a story. Carmel, welcome. You know, they've been carrying a story for quite a long time. However, they've been carrying this baby for too long. I remember when we found out that not she was pregnant, we were pregnant.
Oh, yeah.
When we found out that we were pregnant, okay. When we found out we were pregnant, I remember we were so excited, and every time she got this app called, what was the name of the app? For this baby
the bump. The bump, yeah.
Baby bump or the bump or whatever the bump was, right? And every time she would look at the app, and at every point and
Every
every
Tuesday.
Tuesday she would look up what's happening at this developmental stage at this 2 weeks.
The baby is the size of a cantaloupe, and at this stage, the baby's the size of a watermelon. It was great.
Right, and then they will be describing what's developing at this time. The nervous system is developing, the cells are developing. At this stage, the baby can hear, and she was all excited. She was ecstatic. Now, for all of you who have children, it always happens when it's your first child. Baby number 2, she is like, at month, month 4, I want this baby out. It was no longer cute carrying around this baby, right? And likewise, there are people, it's a cathartic moment where they just want to get this story out. All right, I don't want to think about afterwards. I don't want to think about what color is the crib, what's the color of the wall. I just want to get this baby out. And there are many people who write with that intention. They know they're pregnant with a story, and they are past due. They just want to get the baby out. But the third person is the person who, yes, it's a healing process for them. Yes, they are pregnant, and the birthing their story comes with that sense of urgency and comes with that cathartic feeling. But thirdly, that person also believes that it's a part of their legacy. Giving birth to their message is handing that baton to the next generation. Giving birth to their message is launching not just their business, but turning their message into a movement. And not just turning their message into a movement, but it's a decision to say, I no longer want to leave a legacy, but I want to live a legacy. So when you think about documenting, if you don't document it, it doesn't exist. If you don't share your story, your children will never know the true journey. If you don't share your story, your grandchildren will never understand who they are and what they've come from. So it's very, very important. I encourage you today to see the importance of, number one, if it doesn't get documented, it doesn't get done. And secondly, if it
doesn't get documented, it
does
doesn't
not exist. All right, it doesn't exist. And thirdly, documentation beats conversation any day.
That's right.
Documentation beats conversation any day. Many a times we are trying to convince our next client, we're trying to convince our next, our next vendor, our next JV partner, our next corporate client. But I will tell you something: decision makers, they are not moved by emotions. They are moved by documentation. People who write checks, people who make major decisions, people who select their next keynote speaker, people who are about making decisions, they are not moved by emotions. They do not make decisions by feelings. They make decisions by facts. They are logical, they are fact driven, and they will make decisions based on what's documented. I remember when Lisa was talking about her journey of doing her chicken soup for the African American soul, and she documented everything. She learned it from the non-profit space. So when she was able, to do her book tour, she had everything documented. Likewise, your book is a representation of the problem you solve, the people you've called to serve, the desire that you create, the results that you deliver. When it is documented and you're trying to convince your next corporate client, that's your business card. When you say, hey, this is one of our clients, your life matters, right? When she's talking on international stages, John Maxwell, all over the world, and she's going to get booked, and they want to know her profile, all she does is this.
That's right.
And decision makers, they are readers.
Because documentation beats conversation any day.
Mm-hmm.
So automatically they know what her expertise are. right? They know, or is rather, they know what her expertise is. And so you want to make sure that you have your knowledge base, your wisdom written and solidified in a book. It matters.
It definitely does matter.
To separate you from the competition.
So think about whenever you are trying to convince someone, I will tell you from my experience, I remember when I was looking to get into the speaking circuit in churches, and I thought of working and serving youth. I remember that when I wrote my first book, The Power of Identity, 7 Steps to Overtake and Dominate, it was just a whole different conversation when I do my snap, just that 30 seconds conversation. But I leave my book with them. It's a way of multiplying myself. I don't have to book an appointment. And those decision makers, while they're flying on a plane, they do a cursory glance. Sometimes they read the book, because we teach our son, leaders are readers, and they read my story. By the time the plane lands, Mr. Henry, I'd like to have an appointment with you. We want to talk about next steps. Because I documented my story. All right. If you are a business owner, you have a responsibility. It sets you apart from the rest.
That's
all
right.
You're not just a talker, you're a doer. All right. You're not just someone who promises, but you have evidence of your delivery. So I want to encourage you. There's so many people who take the time to document their story. There's so many people who take the time to document their message. When we look at persons who are working in different fields, from relationships to persons who are working on stories on forgiveness, people who are working in the youth field, youth and basketball, from persons who are working in governance. There are so many people who work in so many different industries, because they took the time to document their story. The doors have been able to open up for them. So I want to encourage you, documentation beats conversation any day. Take the time to document your story. Take the time to write your script out. Take the time to do that proposal. Take the time, to get it done. Because when you get it done, it's a whole different conversation. You're playing at a whole different level.
Exciting. Welcome, India. So we are actually at our last point. Documentation beats conversation. So I really do expect that you've gained some wisdom from this session, and that you'll be joining us every day for the next 6 days now at 12 p.m. and at 9 p.m. To give you some more insight, bestseller secrets, really what it takes to go from blank page to published book.
So as we close, we want to leave you with this quote. Is by Walt Disney, and it goes,
"The way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing." Quit talking and begin doing. So we want to find out from you. Hit us up. Let us know. What are you going to quit talking about, and what are you going to start doing?
In the description there, if you just want to have a clarity call, you want someone just to coach you through the process, this is not an invitation to a product, it's an invitation to get clarity. All right, because the most powerful thing, or the most dangerous person, is someone who's clear. Once you are clear, and clarity is like a weapon. So I encourage you, to be able to have that type of clarity. You know that you want to get your story done, or you just don't know where to start writing. You need some structure. You just need some guidance. I encourage you to book that clarity session. You will see it in the description above. Just click on our calendar, and you will have a conversation, either one of us or one of our team members, who just support you. This is our gift, our community, to let people have that sense of clarity. There are many people within our community that give different types of support. They are vetted, and we will even recommend them to you, because we are all about living in a space of abundance, and that type of integrity decision and integrity-based conversation is something that we thrill and have, and are truly excited to have with you. So guys, this is all for tonight. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow at 12 Eastern, where we're going to continue this conversation about moving from blank page to
Published book.
bestseller. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.